why don't you go ahead and do it and just kick off the show?
Oh gosh, I'm so scared. Let's go! It's the Flashback 64 podcast! Woohoo!
Wonderful. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Welcome, everyone, to the Flashback 64 podcast, the podcast where we take a look chronologically at all of the games in the Nintendo 64 library. I'm Gooey Fame, and joined by my co-host, McKenna Krebs. How's it going, McKenna?
Good. I feel like you're such the podcast expert here. You already know what you're doing.
You're doing great.
This is my first well, I've been on a podcast as a guest, but this is my first of my own.
Yes. Joining us for this very first episode, we're also joined by our good pal Nico Sylvian, aka Nico Tendo 64 over on Twitch. What's up, Nico?
Hello, friends. How's it going?
Good. Glad to have you. And we're joined by my brother Michael, aka Golly Rogers, over on Twitch. How's it going?
Hey, it's me. I'm the guy.
Golly.
Wow.
we got everyone's got Twitches here. We got some professional gamers here, so we're ready for some high level gaming talk.
Oh yeah, pro gamers.
I've got some experience.
You've got some knowledge.
Yes. Oh my God, we'll get to the
video
knowledge.
gamer too.
So, what we're gonna do here is the podcast. We're going through all the N64 library, and we're gonna touch on the games and the time period. We're gonna get a little nostalgic. We're gonna be a little historical. But we're also going to be a little bit autobiographical because we're going to get into our history with the games and whatever else we're talking about. And so for starters, I just wanted to ask, maybe Nico, you could kick it off. What is your history just in general with the Nintendo 64?
Well, growing up, the Nintendo 64 was actually the first video game console that we had in our house. I had friends that had the SNES, and I would play like Link to the Past and stuff under my friend's bed. They had a little TV set up, and we'd lay down on our stomachs and play Link to the Past.
That's awesome.
But the Nintendo 64 was the first video game system that I had in my own home, and I got to get my own games from Blockbuster, and it was the best. I played too much Kirby Crystal Shards. That's probably the game I played the most as a kid. But
yes.
Super Mario 64, I think, was one of the only games that we owned for like the first year of having the system.
That's fair. Well, that's the one to have. So
yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad one, that's for sure.
Okay, sweet. Well, how about you, Michael?
Well, I think you and I probably have a lot of similar experiences, minus a handful of years. I'm pretty sure the Nintendo 64 was out when I was like 2 years old.
1996, September 1996 in America.
Yeah, so I would have just been slightly under 2, and you had been alive by that point.
Yeah, I can confirm that I was alive.
Wow, history.
So I came into being with a bunch of consoles already presented in the household.
Yes.
So as far as I remember, the NES, SNES, and Nintendo 64, they'd been part of my life since those ages, since I was born.
Yes, yep. We probably had one already by the time you were born in the household. McKenna, how about you? I don't think this was one you played at the time, right?
Not too much. We had a Nintendo 64. I was about a year and a half old when it came out. So I just played whatever games my parents bought us, or maybe whatever games my older brother wanted. I have more memories probably of struggling to play some of the games. I think I played 1080 snowboarding, and I thought it was awesome, but I was terrible at it. I do remember playing a lot of Mario Kart, but not a ton of other games, and really even as I got older, still not a ton of games. I didn't play Ocarina of Time until I was 14, and yeah, I've only played a handful of Nintendo 64 games.
Okay, so we'll have all different, I guess, sort of perspectives, right? Because I think a lot of these you'll be playing for the first time, and we'll be hitting plenty of deep cuts as well. So it'll be interesting, and so yeah, it'll be kind of autobiographical too. Because while maybe Michael, you're saying you maybe didn't play Super Mario 64 in 1996. There's a time in your life where that hit. Where you played that probably the most, so it'd be...
Yeah, I mean, I definitely played it a lot when I was a kid. I have fond memories, but it stuck through me through time.
For sure. And then Nico, I mean, it sounds like we're going to kind of, when we have you on, we're going to hit probably a lot of the time periods, that you were, as they happen, yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe it might not come as a big surprise that my favorite video game console is the Nintendo 64.
What?
I know, right? Big shocker there.
Yeah, for me it was, I don't remember exactly when we got one. But it wasn't the first console I had. The NES was. But yeah, I think we basically skipped Super Nintendo because, we're not getting every console. They're expensive. And I think, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I remember our neighbor had a Super Nintendo, and that is how I experienced the Super Nintendo.
I remember going over there playing.
So none of us had an SNES. We all just played it at our friends' houses.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much. We're kind of on the cusp. I feel like everyone I know who's like a few years older than me are like, they're more into the SNES, where like everyone like my age and like a couple years down are more Nintendo 64, which makes sense. I like for me it came out, I was 6 years old when it came out, which is like prime. Like the N64 lasted from that 5-year period was like my prime gaming years as a kid for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Nintendo 64 came out when I was just over a year old. So you obviously I wasn't playing it then, but it was the first console that we had in the house when I think my parents probably got it because my dad wanted it. And I remember just like having it and not really understanding what it was until I was maybe like 5-ish, 4 or 5, and that's when I like actually could hold the controller in my hands, because that's a big part of it. It's a chonker. It's a big controller. I had big hands though as a kid, so it kind of worked out for me.
I also remember just being able to like read and stuff helped get me into games more. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because I was playing like Legend of Zelda as a kid and wandering around and being like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
You had no idea. Well, yeah, like, you could play Ocarina of Time at the age of 5 and no clue what's going on. You're just running around, rolling through Hyrule Field.
I had the luck of being able to copy whatever Goo did.
Lucky
That's
kid.
true. That's true. Yeah,
I was definitely reading before I started playing video games.
Okay, we got a brainiac over here.
I was a very big reader as a child.
Nice bragging.
So I mean, this was a big deal. This whole generation between this and the PlayStation, kind of revolutionizing 3D gaming and all that. And it's safe to say that we're all we're Nintendo fans, right? I mean, we play stuff on.
Nah, hardcore Xbox for me.
Yeah, I know we play some PlayStation stuff like that, but I think growing up, we're all pretty, especially as Zelda Dungeon people are super on the Nintendo side of things. And so, obviously we're going back talking about this console we love, but I think what's interesting looking back on it is kind of this is also kind of like the first dent in Nintendo's armor of like being a total powerhouse, before this, they beat out the Genesis or whatever. But here now you've got the PlayStation starting to rev up, and you had a lot of, a lot of third-party creators that were normally associated with Nintendo went over and worked with them because they could do more with the discs and the storage and all that. They lost things like Square and whatnot, but I don't know. I think that's kind of interesting. I was looking back just at the sales of this console, and it was beat out by the PlayStation. So it's like, oh, okay, this is like, Nintendo until they get to the Wii. They kind of dip. Like, obviously they're not going anywhere, but they sort of dip down in the popularity a little bit. And so I think that's something that is interesting to recognize when I normally think back to, I mean, it's an awesome console, awesome multiplayer, but, it had its weaknesses, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I feel the GameCube was underappreciated at the time.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of, we'll do our GameCube podcast next, obviously.
It might take a bit.
There's obviously a lot of good stuff going on there too, but it was kind of, I wouldn't say it was like a low point, but I feel like that was probably, well, I guess the Wii U, that's probably the low point.
Yeah, probably.
Definitely.
Though it's funny, McKenna and I were reading, we were reading some of the Nintendo Power from the month this was released, and we were looking at there's like a letter section, and like they I thought it was funny they published this. So someone like wrote a letter that was like trashing the Virtual Boy. They're like, stop publishing stuff about this garbage console.
Yeah.
But yeah, while that happened with the Nintendo 64, obviously it's such a classic console, and I'm looking forward to going through the library. But the other thing we want to do is we want to talk about like the actual time period it was released. Like I said before, it'll be a little fun to we'll get a little nostalgic, and we'll also hit on kind of big historical events, and I don't know, it's just kind of cool to like contextualize it. So we actually have we have a whole segment for that, but I kind of wanted to, if you guys don't mind, do almost a little we'll go through 1996, a little bit of pre game where you kind of lead up to the beginning of the year. In 1996, we all remember the biggest shows of the time: Seinfeld, ER, Friends. Some of the biggest singles, the longest lasting singles of the year were Always Be My Baby by Mariah Carey, The Crossroads by Bone Thugs and Harmony, and the double single How Do You Want It / California Love by Tupac Shakur. The top album of the year, the best-selling album of the year, was Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette, which which is a banger. We were rocking out to it earlier, actually.
Amazing.
Listen to the whole thing.
Incredible.
The biggest movies of the year were Independence Day, Twister, and Mission Impossible. I also wanted to shout out, this was the year where the Bulls won the NBA Finals championship for the fourth year, and Michael Jordan was MVP. So that was his fourth championship. And also Space Jam came out that year. It was like in the top 10 highest grossing. So, Michael Jordan was huge at this time.
A lot of big events.
A lot of big events, and it was an election year.
My first birthday.
Yeah.
all of our first birthdays.
Well,
yeah.
You.
Except for Gooey.
My 6th birthday. And I don't know if you remember we were watching a little bit of that SNL the other night, but it was an election year.
Yeah.
It was the incumbent President Bill Clinton running against Senator Bob Dole. And we can touch on it more maybe on the election special, but it was pretty much, I don't know if you remember a lot of those skits, but pretty much everyone had already made up their mind that Bill Clinton was going to win re-election months before the election. I don't know, that was funny to go back and see. But as for the release, so the release of Nintendo 64, what I had read was that it was released September 29th, 1996, but there was other conflicting things. People were saying September 26th because a lot of places just started selling it early.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. We kind of have a gray area here, but for that actual week, let's say, the Macarena Bayside Boys mix by Los Del Rio had spent 9 weeks at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, just dominating. And I made that playlist. The Macarena, different versions of it, are on the top 100 3 different times. So the Macarena was crazy. Speaking of the election season, I remember at the Democratic National Convention, they were all doing the Macarena. It was, I don't know. We were listening to it on our drive, and it's man,
we've listened to it a lot.
All these kids doing their Fortnite dances when they could be doing the Macarena.
I know.
The Macarena was life-defining.
I've been doing the Macarena my whole life.
Other
Probably
songs.
the first dance I learned,
Oh yeah, easy.
Oh, yeah, it's got the beat right there for you.
They did not all know how to do it at the Democratic National Convention.
No, some of
Not
them
a
were
surprise.
just kind of moving around. Yeah.
Doing their own thing.
Other top songs included "I Love You Always Forever," "It's All Coming Back to Me Now," "Twisted," and "Come On Ride It, The Train" by Quad City DJs. They were cleaning up that year too because they had the Space Jam theme as well. But that really gets me going. Highest grossing film of the weekend was The First Wives Club, starring Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn, and Diane Keaton, which Nico, you caught us watching the other day.
Yeah, I caught the credits, the last few scenes there.
It was cute.
Yeah.
And what's that? Oh, sorry. I thought you said something. The other top films, Extreme Measures and Last Man Standing. Don't know those. And then other games that came out actually this week. There was a lot, but I wrote down a few notable ones. We had Wipeout XL 2097 for the PlayStation, Street Fighter Alpha 2, and Donkey Kong Land 2 for the Game Boy. And I think that's fun to think about too, is the PlayStation I think had already kind of been going for about a year, and they already had gotten up and running. So that's another thing that probably was somewhat of a challenge, was there's already this other big console kind of taking over the market here,
especially since everyone's already used to the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And then they see, the Nintendo 64 is coming out, and most people, I think at the time, would probably see it as an inferior console. Because it was using these big chunky, not discs. Everyone's discs are the future, so why would we be using these giant clunky things to play games on?
And that definitely with the storage, that actually would make a big difference. We'll probably talk about it when we talk about these games, but I remember it always felt kind of lame, even though I played the crap out of it, having the N64 version of Tony Hawk, for example, because they couldn't fit the whole songs on them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is like, it always felt like, oh, I've got the baby version of the game, you know,
Yeah.
for little losers. I don't have the cool, edgy PlayStation.
Please tell me they still had Superman.
They did, but not the whole song. Not the whole song.
Oh.
They cut out the bridge though, which sucks.
Didn't they censor a lot of music in that too? We can talk about that in the episode for it, but like I thought they did.
They sort of didn't have to because like they had a Dead Kennedy song on there, but it was just like the instrumental part of the song.
Oh god.
Maybe that was because it was like we're not even gonna bother trying to censor this.
I guess that was their way around it.
Also from a more historical perspective, some big events that happened earlier in the month. Tupac Shakur was murdered, and on September 27th, actually, the Taliban captured the city of Kabul in Afghanistan. So, you know, we'll see how that plays out in a later episode.
Curious. Wonder what's gonna happen there.
Integral to the Nintendo 64.
Hey, we're not just. I just don't. It's not gonna be all nostalgia. You know, there's some serious things going on.
Gotta know what was going on.
Which also I just think it's kind of interesting because like when I was 6, you know, I wasn't really thinking about that. Like, actually, my first like political memory is like being in kindergarten and this election. Like we had to like pick who we would win, and like they had like around each of them they just had like an outline, like, you know, a box outlining them, and it was like Bill Clinton had a blue outline and Bob Dole had like a red outline, and I was like, oh, red is a way cooler color. So we did a little fake election in kindergarten and I voted for Bob Dole because he was the color red.
I feel like I had to do similar things at different eras in my school about fake elections.
Yeah, I definitely remember doing one. Maybe in 2000, or or the next one, 2004, maybe both, in elementary school.
I feel like I did in 2004. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there'll be some, even though some of these things might be kind of dark, it's kind of fun or interesting to be like, what was going on when I was, you know, just a stupid little baby and I didn't know what's going on. But we should talk about the games. McKenna, why don't you tell us about Pilotwings 64?
Pilotwings 64 is a flight simulator game where you'll attempt to earn your pilot licenses for the autogyro, jetpack, and hang glider by completing courses with various objectives, such as flying through rings, landing on platforms, taking photographs, and shooting targets, such as a giant monster. There are 6 playable characters and bonus content, including a human cannonball and skydiving minigames, and a free-flying mode.
So, I already know, I know how you guys feel about it. So I want to know first, Michael, do you have much experience with this game? Have you played it?
So I played it for the first time about a week ago. You know, just to give a fresh perspective.
Okay.
And I'll say that going in, I wasn't expecting too much from the controls, but I feel like they were slightly better than I thought they were going to be. So I feel like the controls they hold up fairly well. I
would agree, big time.
Yeah, I played about 4 levels. Not too much, but from what I played, I enjoyed. I ended up getting to this level where you have to skydive down the side of a cliff, like with a waterfall.
The chicken dive.
And you had to go through all these reeds, and I kept crashing into the mountain. And that's about when I put I put my Switch down.
I think that is the second hang glider level.
It's pretty tough. So we played a lot of it together, the 3 of us. We played it first on N64, and then we all were kind of messing around with it on Switch. But yeah, that was a big level. that we had a hard time with.
It was a tough one.
What you're saying about the controls, like obviously like there's some things that are hard to do on it, but like overall, like just like the feel of like the different types of things you were flying, like I thought it did do a good job of like capturing the feeling of doing those things. I was even a little impressed. I went back and loaded up the Pilotwings on SNES, and I had some different types of games, and even then it felt like, oh yeah, this feels like, it does feel like a simulation of it, you know. It like you like they I don't know, they just do a good job of like conveying like the weight and stuff of the thing you're doing, and like the control of going with the wind and stuff like that.
I completely agree. The difference between like the hang glider, the copter, and the jetpack, each one of them feels so different to control. I mean, obviously the actual controls are different, but you can actually kind of like feel the weight, like you said, of each one when you're playing, which is very impressive for a launch title. It's a launch title, right? What are the launch titles for the N64? I think that's pretty impressive. I'll be real.
Yeah. So I looked up the co-developers of Pilotwings 64. They co-developed this with Nintendo. It's Paradigm, or they were formerly Paradigm Simulation, and then they became Paradigm Entertainment. But before developing this, they worked on flight simulation tech for like space and aviation groups. So that was
cool.
what they did. Like Pilotwings 64 was their first game, and I think they developed several more vehicle simulation games for the Nintendo 64 and I think other systems.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
not a surprise.
No, not a surprise. Michael, you were gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna. This is more going back to just the controls, but without treading over too much of what was all already said, anytime I messed up or like lost a level in that game, did I ever feel like it was the mistake of like mishandled controls? It was just I made a genuine mistake.
Yeah, I definitely had that a lot. I mean, that chicken dive one was hard, but
it was hard, but I understood who the problem was.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good you're honest. Like a lot of the levels, there were certain ones that I definitely thought were more fun than others, but like a lot of them, like I was playing sections, like I liked the ones where you're flying around shooting the targets. I was like, oh, I would play like a game of this, like, you know, that's not just like these series of mini games almost. I'm like, they could have, you know, I guess what this reminded me of was it's sort of like, these are the two launch games we got, right? And we'll talk about Super Mario 64, but that's obviously the one to like get super invested in, like the world and everything. And Pilotwings is kind of sort of more like, it's like the tech demo game that like a lot of consoles come with. Like it's like the Wii Sports almost, where it's like, look what we can do in 3D and flying around and stuff like that, you know. Whereas like, you know, like compared to like, I think the original Pilotwings was more straightforward. So this was now like, look, the N64, they're trying to show off, you know, some of the, you know, how they can make these 3D worlds and stuff like that. And I think just the world of it in general is actually kind of cool for what it is, you know, even though it's not
I
like,
agree.
I love the island, the music.
It gives like Woohoo Island vibes.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because you know that they were like, okay, we're making this new Wii Sports. What do we got to do? What's a good place that we could recreate? They basically remade that first island from Pilotwings.
I don't know if this is just because of if like the Switch version is just different, but I felt like the graphics for like the characters and stuff looked pretty good.
No, they do.
Yeah,
We were playing on the N64. They look great.
Yeah, they're obviously like, they're pretty simplistic, you know, polygonal characters, but just like the design and stuff and all the characters, just they're fun looking.
Characters are great. I love the characters.
We were reading about it, either if it's a manual or if it was the Nintendo Power, but one thing it like hints at the like main, I forgot the main kid's name, the first character you can pick, but
They're all named after birds.
Okay,
know
so
that.
so like his name is different than who they said it was, but they said he's supposed to be Nestor, who was like this comic book character in Nintendo Power. Like they had a comic strip they would run like in the in the early 90s or whatever, and so we were reading about it, and there's like people say he's Nestor or whatever. I don't know, I thought it was cute. So it's kind of got like a Nintendo branding to it. So it makes sense. Like it does feel like, yeah, the Wii Resort is like a spiritual successor to this. Not it, like the music too. I feel like it like that style of, I don't even know how you describe like the music to this, but I feel like the Wii Sports games also kind of capture it
The
really
music
well.
for this game, so good. Oh, it's just a jam the entire time. I think that's an important thing too, because a lot of what you're doing, especially like the hang gliding and stuff, you're not doing a lot. You're kind of just like waiting a little bit. So you're enjoying the sights, you're making sure you're leveled out and not freaking out or falling, or it's gonna blare the alarm at you. But while you're just kind of hanging out, waiting for it to lift you up a little bit higher, you get to enjoy the chill beats of the island.
Vibing.
Oh, you get some good vibes in this game for sure.
I'm
Yeah.
setting my mind in like a vacation mode, just kind of imagining it.
It's
Oh, yeah.
it's like made for those chill beats to study to compilations.
You know what's kind of interesting is that there was a sequel to this for the 3DS called Pilotwings Resort.
See. So there is
So-
a branding thing here, yeah.
Oh, for
A
sure.
little mashup.
They need to bring it
It's
back. They need to bring Pilot Wings back, I think. If they haven't.
Well, I mean, now that we've got it on the expansion pass or the expansion pack, I guess it's called, which makes sense, for NSO, it's awesome that more people are able to just kind of like pick up and play it, you know?
Yeah. I think people could appreciate this. I feel like it probably, at its time, probably was a good, like, say if you got Mario 64, then you need, like something else, something kind of different. Like, this is good, like, here's all these levels to kind of like, these mini games essentially to challenge you. And I think that
if you've never played this, do what I did. Pick it up for the first time on the NSO and enjoy it.
I agree. And it's so easy
Yeah.
to just hop in and play a couple and then call it. If you just want to play for a game for like 20 minutes, this is a great game to just hop in and have a little bit of fun and call it good.
yeah, true. It's like not, like, as opposed to like, if you were invested in Mario 64 and you needed a break or something, or any game now for that matter. But why don't we switch gears and talk about Super Mario 64?
Super Mario 64 is the first 3D Mario platformer where you have the ability to control the camera, or perhaps the camera operator, and move about the world in new ways. Mario will navigate Peach's castle, the central hub of the game, which has been taken over by Bowser, and collect stars by jumping through paintings into different worlds and completing a variety of levels. Mario will run, crawl, swim, and jump, as well as double jump, triple jump, long jump, and wall jump to reach these stars. Collecting stars will allow you to open more doors throughout the castle and eventually reach and battle Bowser.
Okay, so Michael, you on multiple occasions have hinted that you're some kind of genius about this game.
I just feel like I have spent my entire life coming back to Mario 64 for so many things.
Okay.
Whether it be playing or making videos. I used to make Mario 64 machinima.
I know, I've never seen this, but I've heard about it.
You've never seen it. But I've made it with like friends. I've played it. I feel like I've never speedrun it, but like this game's huge. People love this game, especially like speedrunning communities.
Yeah, it's got a big speedrunning scene for sure. Okay, so you by knowledge, I thought you meant like you were gonna, reveal some deep knowledge that we didn't know about here.
I mean, there are a lot of random facts and tidbits I know about Mario 64. Like, for example,
here we go. Tidbit.
Like, did you know that despite, Mario 64 being on the Nintendo 64, it is actually a 32-bit game?
Whoa.
What?
Yeah,
That's outrageous.
The game was made with 32 bits.
Wow. I've never known that. That's pretty cool.
They should have called it Super Mario 32.
Nico, I mean, you've already kind of hinted at it, but I think you've probably got a similar story. It sounds like this is a long-loved game for you.
I have sunk countless hours into this game. It's truly my first 3D video game experience where it really felt like I had control of anything. I don't know. It changed 3D video games forever because it was it was the first Nintendo one. And I don't know. It really just kind of put me into this mindset, even just like as a little kid playing this, as to like, whoa, video games are cool and I can just like explore and discover things and I don't know, just like have fun at the same time. Whereas a lot of other games I had played with friends, and admittedly, Link to the Past, I'd been playing before this, I didn't understand it as a kid. And so I was like, this game sucks. I don't like it. It's hard. And so, I don't know. Obviously, like, I like it now as an adult that understands the game. But I think Mario 64 is kind of what taught me that video games can be for anybody. And that they're just like, yeah, you can play this and have a really good time. And it kind of is the game that got me hooked.
So this is your first Mario game too, right?
I would say no, because I do remember playing Super Mario World a lot. And I'm assuming I played that before this.
Michael, I think, right? This would probably be one of the because we would already have had it by the time you were born, I think.
I remember playing a lot of like Super Mario Bros. On the NES. We had like Duck Hunt.
Oh yeah,
Mario the double pack. So I remember. I feel like that probably is my earliest memory of Mario.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that is for me too. Like the first Super Mario Brothers. Like as long as I have had memories, like I remember playing that game. So this game was really big for me. Like I said, I was still kind of too young to like know that I really probably didn't even understand the concept of things coming out necessarily. You know what I mean? It was just like, I can't wait for the release date of Mario 64. I was like 6, so I was dumb. I don't know, but
it exists.
It exists. I just remember Mario 64 existing and it blowing my mind. But McKenna, you're a little different, right? This was your first time ever playing it.
Yeah, this is completely new to me. I hadn't even played very much Mario before. I played Mario Kart. Well, I've played Mario Kart and Mario Party since the 64 on various consoles, and then my first kind of main Mario game was Mario Odyssey.
Wow.
So,
wow, spoiled. That is a good first game.
I know. I was like I played that and I was like, gosh, do I like what do I play? Do I go back and play another Mario game? That was so good. I really enjoyed that one. I feel like I don't play a ton of platformers. But yeah, playing this was fun. It was the style, just starting it felt very nostalgic. Even though I didn't play a lot of 64 games, I remember watching other people play it. Other, 64 games, and I was kind of just immediately charmed by it.
Okay, so you have a good impression of this, because that's what I was thinking when you tell me Mario Odyssey is, I imagine just some people would be like, you know, comparatively, there are certain gameplay elements there that maybe feel it's like a more smoother experience. I feel like, not to say this isn't, but you know what I mean. Like it'd be like going from playing Breath of the Wild to Ocarina of Time. You know, you would.
Yeah, I had a much harder time with Mario 64. Particularly a lot of the depth perception stuff, which actually I
Yeah.
think was common with both this and Pilotwings, is that if I was having an issue with playing, it was usually a depth perception issue.
That's fair. That's fair. But you mentioned Odyssey. I feel like when I play Odyssey, like obviously so much of the DNA of Mario 64 is there. For me, one thing that's really charming, we played through it again, Mario 64, and just like I recall just like each of the levels, having they have their own, unique objectives you can do, and I would mostly think back to, just those memorable ones like racing the penguin or what have you. But what kind of charmed me about it this time was how you do pop into these sort of little dioramas and you can do the objective, but there's all this other strange extra stuff you can do. Some of it's the main star, some of it's like side content, where it did really feel like there was like just this charming little world where you can run around and do different silly little things. And I think about that when playing Odyssey, where it's like, oh, I'm running around and now I'm doing jump rope and now I'm, on top of a building or like just popping around with all these like almost little like momentary bits of joy while also like having these overarching, levels you can play through or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Mario 64 probably has one of my favorites, like theme musics in the entire series. The Bomb on Battlefield theme.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's the music in general. That's one thing that is so I don't know. There's some of the songs in this are unreal. I think from like even just from the select screen music, like
They're
I don't know.
all iconic.
Yeah,
They really are, and they've all been reused in future Mario games because they were also iconic.
Yeah, and like I don't know, there's something, the tone of it is just really like, obviously there's like a lot of songs in there that sound like classic Mario, and obviously like a lot of the same people writing the music, but like then there's some stuff that just kind of catches me off guard a little bit, and it's like damn, they're like really messing with some of the different midis and synths that they can use and kind of creating a totally unique sound that fits like what at this point is like a pretty unique, like even visually game. I feel like just it's kind of that halfway point between the old Mario games and then like Mario as we have him now, where like here he's like in his early polygonal form. So I think just that overall vibe, something, maybe it's just me like remembering the time, but if like the nostalgia of it just makes me think of how like new and like kind of fresh and like crazy it felt at the time.
Here's a fun fact. There's more polygons in Mario's mustache in Odyssey than the entire model of Mario in Mario 64.
that's a good fun fact.
I like that. That's a good mustache.
It's a great mustache.
I love his model in this game. I think he's adorable.
I do too. The Super Mario 64 model I think will always be my favorite version of Mario, because he's just, you just want to just squish his face like an old Italian grandma and feed him spaghetti, which he's dreaming about it, so he wants it. He's just the cutest little guy. I love him so much.
Yeah, he looks like a curious guy that's just out there discovering the world.
I just remember noticing how colorful it was. I
Oh, it
love
is.
colorful games. And I remember one point looking, I don't remember what I was looking at, but there was just this like textured area with that had tons of little colors in it, and it reminded me of Skyward Sword, which has one of my favorite Zelda art styles because you
Oh
just
yeah.
look at the dirt, which in any other game is just brown, but the dirt in Skyward Sword has tons of little colors in it, and I got super excited about that.
Yeah,
It
just
is a
the
very colorful game, which I think they definitely wanted to go like all out. You
Mhm.
know, they wanted to be like, look at what we can do. We're gonna push it to the limit. We're gonna show you everything we got, and I think they did it. I think they did it.
Yeah.
It's it's also a game that does a really good job at reusing assets and
Mm-hmm.
like you
that's
almost
classic Mario. Remember the
Oh yeah.
cloud and the mountains?
cloud and
Yeah,
the
you got the.
mountains.
Yep.
Like in Mario 64, the boos, they're like high-pitched little laughs is just like a reused Bowser
Mm-hmm.
sound from the game.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely clever. Yeah, a lot of clever stuff here. Like that's what it's. The game is so like simple in a lot of ways, but it's what kind of like what makes it good is because they boiled down. I mean, this is classic Mario, but I feel like they boil down just like this one like gameplay element and like really do a lot with it, which I think is like the jumping in this game. Like there's
Yeah.
such
Oh
a,
yeah.
like we're going from in the 2D Mario games, I get there is a lot of versatility in those for sure, especially once you get to like Super Mario World and you get the things like the cape and whatnot. But this like it's like, oh, you can jump, you can double jump, you can triple jump, you can long jump, you can back jump, you
Oh,
can
I love that long jump.
there's that weird one where you like do a weird vertical kind of jump.
Yeah, the vertical like backflip.
Yeah,
I
it's
for
so
that one
awesome.
for that one personally, I think it's like it feels amazing when like you find these certain ledges that you could try to like triple jump up to, but the vertical backflip has like such height that it's always a great feeling when you can reach those, just like testing out those kind of jumps.
Oh yeah. There was one that
It's
McKenna was doing like by accident, oh,
Oh
but
yeah.
like
I don't even.
repeatedly. So it was
I
like almost like, oh
still
wow,
don't know.
you're a speedrunner.
Oh yeah. Oh
it is
yeah. Remember that
pretty.
speaking of speed running, I like
Oh yeah.
somehow managed to like glitch through a wall, and it wasn't even like, oh, I did it once and it just was a mistake. I duplicated it. I was able to do it multiple times on one of the
That's the one
levels.
I was. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was like that's not even where I had to go to get the star I was trying to get. But I ended up exploring like this whole other area that I wasn't supposed to be in yet.
That was in like the big small island, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
kind of blew my mind that you were doing that.
Yeah, I was like,
th-
what the heck?
there's a lot of cool, fun like speed running glitches in Mario 64.
And so like all that is like based off of like obviously you're hitting Z and B and stuff, but like I think of like a lot of this stuff is just like using the analog stick and hitting jump in the right way. Like it really just kind of shows off like the possibility of
Mhm.
3D analog controls
Well,
because
yeah, I mean, this is the game where people kind of realize that, like, okay, this is going to be the new normal, and no one, I think everyone kind of went into this game thinking like, oh, this is so much. I'm so confused. I'm overwhelmed by all of these controls. I don't just hit A to jump anymore. But it just felt so good to control. Like they worked so hard on making Mario feel like one to one your movement to his movement. And I know that in the actual like production of the game, they had to tweak it so much because people would play it and say that it felt like he was slippery. Like he was moving around too much. And so they literally like went back and like redid the controls so that it would feel right. And when you think of like moving a character in a 3D world, Mario is kind of like sort of like the new palette for like what you want to base your movement off of. I mean, it's concise, but he's fast and he's limber. The little Italian dude jumping around. It's awesome.
It was very important that they got it right.
It was very important.
Yeah, I think the movement was a big part of that. And then, I mean, we talked about there's a slight, slight depth perception issue. I think I don't know. That's kind of issue a lot of 3D platformers in general, too. I don't know. Maybe you guys don't agree with that.
I think a big thing with that is the N64 couldn't necessarily do shadows like we know today.
True.
And shadows are what help us with depth perception a lot. So, I mean, I still have trouble with it.
I remember like one particular time where I thought I had gotten a jump perfectly and I just fell straight through the sky and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that happens.
For me, a lot of it and what makes it fun and doesn't really bug me, one is the movement. And because of that, the movement usually feels so good that I'm just like running and jumping and I'm not like trying to think often unless I'm like really nervous. But there's a lot of jumps that I'm like, I just kind of trust that I'll make it. I'm like, I think that's good. And you mess up sometimes, but I just kind of roll with it. You got 5 lives or whatever. You can fall off a few times because once you do start getting like some of those more risky jumps down like easier, it's very satisfying.
The jumping is fun. The game makes you want to feel like you want to jump all the time.
I'm Super Mario. The other thing...
That long jump.
So go ahead, Nico.
I was watching you and McKenna kind of trade the controller back and forth, trying to get the triple jump down, which I remember as a kid, my sister... So I have an older sister. She's 4 years older than me. And she would play video games, but like just because it was like there, not because she really liked it. But I remember she was super good at the triple jump. And I, as a kid, could not figure out the timing. I would run forward and I would click A and I would jump and I'd do the second one and then I could never get the third one. And I think McKenna was having the exact same problem I had when I first played the game. But you just you have to learn, and once you get it down, it feels so good. You just triple jump all over the place. It feels great.
The muscle memory.
I was like struggling to get the jump, and then I handed it to Gooey, and I don't remember if you might have gotten it on your first try.
I think you did.
And then you handed it back to me, and I immediately just did it.
Because you go, oh, that's like the rhythm, it's a specific rhythm that I also, it's not even like
a conscious thing.
To be fair, like there are plenty of times where I struggle to do it and I kind of have to like remember, that's there, but where there's other jumps that I like, you kind of like just eventually memorize it and you can do it almost every time,
Mm-hmm.
The other thing though that I feel like they had to kind of get right for this to work, and where there are other 3D games of the era that struggled with even before Mario, was like the camera and everything. And definitely and definitely through playing it with McKenna and after having played other Mario games, like you definitely now in the more modern era have more control of the camera and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The actual camera system they implement here, what for its like time, like it was actually markedly above like other 3D like platformers and stuff.
It was a big deal.
I think it has less to do with the control that the character has and just more of how the camera moves in the world, and like adjusts in the correctly. I don't know. I don't really understand how all that works, but I feel like the camera in this...
Well, so Lakitu, he's really artistic, so he likes to make sure he gets a good shot, which is why it works.
Yeah,
Yes.
they hired a good cameraman for this.
Yeah, that's all it took.
That's why sometimes when you're like, I want to move the camera, he's like, no, 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 that won't
Yeah.
look good.
I had a hard time with the camera because I don't have any reference really for other cameras of the time. I just have like probably Ocarina of Time forward is like the style of camera that I'm used to.
Then they
And
moved it forward a lot.
basically
Too.
having full control over where I wanted to look and playing this where it's like fixed points and there were points where I was like, but I want to view it this way and I just couldn't get it that way. It was hard at times.
Yeah, it taught you a lot of restraint as a kid. I'll tell you that.
For me, it's another one of those trust things. Where I think it's too where I've certain levels I've played so many times, so I was just like, I'm pretty sure there's a block that way if I jump that way, even if I don't have a good
not
view.
trustworthy.
Yeah,
I remember,
yeah.
I remember playing Ocarina of Time and just like without having the jump button, every time I had to do a jump, I had to have it perfectly lined
Yeah.
up. Otherwise, I was like, I'm not gonna make this jump.
Yeah. So, but I think, for like, definitely there's been certain things that have even come a long way from there, but I think, this was pretty revolutionary, and I don't know, I still appreciate it. There's a certain charm to the making it a character, the camera a character also really
That was a great idea.
helps a lot, because you're always thinking about him. You got a buddy.
And I mean, if you look at it, so the game did actually win an award for best use of innovative technology for
Oh.
that year.
Wow.
In fact, I'm looking at its list of awards, and it won every single award that it was nominated for.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm
It's
sure
a lot.
there's probably someone out there. There's probably a video out there somewhere where you can get a more technical breakdown of that stuff. Yeah, I don't really know how any of that stuff works, but I
yeah.
definitely know, just compared to having played other games of the time, like that this feels so good compared to them.
The small bits of voice acting for Mario also helped, like, give
Oh yeah.
big personality to the little guy, I think.
Oh, 100%.
yeah.
He wouldn't shut up.
Yeah, his voice acting is great. I mean, it I don't know. I mean, it adds to the fun, the fun level of when you hit
Yeah.
jump, this guy goes woohoo,
Yeah, I love it.
Just a little like, hut, hip, oh.
You can't
lots
help but
of-
smile.
It's just cute.
I like
gets-
all the
I love
voice
Mario.
acting.
It's sad when he gets hurt.
And
Oh,
when he
yeah.
dies.
His little oofs.
Oh, I love his ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, that like kind of scared me a little as a kid.
And well, speaking of that, Gooey, you and I were talking about this because we were looking at the theme music for the show, for the pod, and I put in the little like the womp 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 womp, right? But we realized that is not in Super Mario 64.
No.
We were looking, we were like, okay, what is the game over screen for Super Mario 64? And it is some weird, kind of creepy, like, and it's like Mario looking real sad. And
Isn't he like,
it's, yeah, it's not a good screen. I mean, I didn't see it that often,
Yeah.
but
the classic game over theme is way more fun.
It's
is.
just his head too, so it's even more like
It is a little weird. It's like he got decapitated. A little creepy.
The head, that was another thing that made it feel like I'm playing a game from the future, was you start up the game and there's, you've got the Mario theme, but it's
Yeah.
that weird, like, there's like the crazy drums going on
They're like,
underneath. Yeah.
and you get to move his head
Oh.
around and like
Yeah.
stretch it.
it's
That-
such a weird menu.
That was so much fun that they made a Mario Party mini game out of it.
Yeah.
See, I played
Why
that.
don't we have fun menus like that anymore?
I played that and I felt like I am in the year 2000. I am in the future.
Welcome to the future. The year is 2000. Beep boop.
It's a me.
There's
Wow.
almost too much to talk about with this game. How about
There really is.
someone mentioned the hub at some point. That was really magical. Like
Yeah.
the Mario games have always kind of like tried to, with even just selecting levels, kind of do different things and make it fun. And this just giving you like a little like playhouse to kind of explore, like a little castle diorama.
And not only that, they've kept this design for Peach's castle ever since then.
The design
Like
is amazing.
it's all it. I mean, the Super Mario Brothers movie just came out, and it looks like the Super Mario 64 Peach's castle.
It's got
Right.
beautiful stained glass.
Oh, it's got we know you love your stained glass in
Oh,
video
yeah.
games. And it's
What
got
I-
the music.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
So good. Ugh.
What I think is really great about the hub is that it's not just a way, like a connection from level to level, but there's also all these secrets inside of this hub that you can like collect stars in and find all sorts of like different, just these secrets.
power-ups.
I don't think, yeah, power-ups. I don't think there were a whole lot of games like that at the time.
It
You
was
can do a lot in this hub.
like in like Super Mario 3 and Super Mario World, you had those sort of elements of like interacting with the map and finding secrets on the map, but just the added level of like doing the same style of like platforming. There's not like a lot of platforming, but like, oh, I gotta go like pound these two pillars to lower the water level. Like it felt like you were inhabiting the select screen in a much bigger way.
It's
Right.
still its own full 3D world. It's the exact same type of gameplay as when you go into the world, whereas Super Mario World, the hub is this top-down Mario's just standing there, you move it over, but the actual gameplay is not like that at all. This is all one coherent 3D area. And so I think that's awesome that they were like, let's just make it a whole playable area. And there's so much you can do in this hub. Talking to the little toads. I love the little toads.
Catch that dang rabbit.
Oh, I hate that rabbit.
Oh, Mips.
Oh, good, you know the name. One thing too, not just with like the secrets, but just how they present even the regular levels is the paintings and like how it's not always that. Sometimes it's like the one level is just like in the wall. One is like a goo puddle you jump into.
There's the
like,
bird cage that's the Boo House.
yeah, like just having the levels like and the way you get to them being these unique little vignettes in themselves is really charming.
Yeah, the you mentioned the Boo House. Yeah, that specifically that little Boo House in the cage, that was like mind blowing.
Yeah,
It freaked me out as a kid.
That was a
So
scary level.
I
Going
just
through
remember
the-
going out to the fountain and there's just a bunch of boos and I just ran the other way. I was like, no,
I was-
I'm not going.
I was
I'm not
thinking the
going in
level
there.
itself.
Well, listen, when I got into the level, that was a whole different story. I was just screaming, get me out of here!
There's a piano trying to eat me.
That piano is
I love that
terrifying.
level.
One of the very first levels, you enter into this room up the staircase off to the right, and like there's just these 3 stained peach windows.
Oh yeah.
You don't know what's
yeah.
going on in there, and then you just jump at one, and suddenly you have to go down a slide.
With some of the best
Oh,
music
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a
You gotta
classic
love the
Mario.
secret slide music. Oh, too good.
Oh yeah.
Too good.
I love all the slide games, little mini slide games.
Yeah, we need more
That's a
slide stuff.
Classic.
The penguin race.
Always fun.
You can cheat against the penguin and it won't give you the star. It'll be like, try again. Mario, you cheater. Gosh, yeah, does anyone want to like have a favorite level they want to touch upon? Because it's kind of hard to, there's so much in this game.
I think, as terrible as it was as a kid, I really loved clocks when I was a kid. Like my
Oh, yeah.
grandparents had a little cuckoo clock, and I always had like a fun clock in my bedroom. I just liked clocks, and so big surprise, TikTok clock was kind of like a really cool level to me, especially when I found out that like depending on where the minute hand is when you jump in, it changes the level.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a big thing and I remember realizing that years after playing this game for the first time. It took me years of playing this game to finally understand that. But I love that level even though it really sucks. I think it's great.
It is like I mean, that's one of the last ones you get to. It's like hard mode of the game for sure.
It is.
Like when I think of that compared to, I think I just like Bob-omb Battlefield because I just probably spent the most time as a kid running around there listening to that music.
I feel like it's hard picking my favorite, and I do also tend to steer towards Bomb-omb Battlefield. I think
Good.
the Booze Mansion might be like a close second. I like I like all the, you have the mansion and you go like into all the various rooms and there's, stars hidden throughout it. It's got a piano that comes to life and tries to eat you. It's got a creepy merry-go-round down
Evil.
in the basement. Yeah. Right. I booted up Resident Evil.
McKenna, was there one that stuck out to you?
I agree on the Booze Mansion one. I think
Wow.
I did most of the stars in that particular level. I really like horror stuff. I don't play a lot of just like straight horror games, but I really like when just like a normal game has horror aspects to it. What else? I feel like I didn't play any of it, but the like rainbow one I thought was
Rainbow
cool.
Ride.
'Cause
That
you
one's
just
so
get to,
hard, I
ride
feel like.
around. Yeah, it looked hard, but
It's just long.
It's the final world, so it's like really hard.
I just like colors, so
Well, of course that gets a Smash level in Melee, a classic
It does.
one.
One of my favorites.
Oh, well, Peach's
honestly.
Castle too.
I do have to give a special notice to Jolly Roger Bay for just
Oh.
being very aesthetically pleasing to me.
Oh, well, I mean,
Can't
let's
figure
talk.
why.
yeah.
How about that music of that one? Oh,
The
boy.
water, just all the water music in this game is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Dire Dire Docks to this day, I think is a lot of people's favorite Mario song.
I often find myself needing to wind down, putting on some Dire Docks and just
Yeah.
There's
and
some
just
good
letting
remixes
it
out there.
flow
Yeah.
into me.
You know what? I want to shout out a song then too. The underground theme, like in the Hazy Maze Cave, because
Okay, yeah.
it is like it speaks to that specific like new vibe the game gives off. Is that it's that classic underground theme, but it's kind of like it feels like, what's the right word? I don't know, like industrial, not industrial, but
I mean, that's not entirely wrong.
there's it just has like a sort of futuristic feeling to it, and like there's also like a spookiness to it.
It
you
could
know?
almost be a James Bond song.
Yeah. And I remember like that playing when you like first go down and find basically the Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
That was just like something that really stuck with me as a kid, as did like going into a level and being like, okay, here's the next level where I'm fighting Bowser. And instead it's like you gotta board his submarine and there's this giant sub you find in a
Yeah.
hidden cave. Like there's so many like just moments like that kind of shocked me and stuck out to me as a kid.
You know, just like looking back at it, it is kind of incredible how big this game is.
Yeah.
There's honestly so much in it. Like I just keep remembering. There's like the wet dry world. Totally forgot that one existed.
Wet, dry, a little big,
Like
tiny,
there's-
huge.
Yeah.
they
There's just
they
so-
like
And
those.
there's just tall,
yeah.
tall.
Yeah. There's the just
Just
tall
a-
mountain. It's very tall.
So there's a
Extra
couple
tall.
mountain levels,
Yeah.
which makes sense, I
Yeah,
guess.
doing a lot of mountain climbing in this game.
Yeah.
It's just,
yeah,
it is just so cool to see how much they put in. They put so much heart into this game because they knew it had to be perfect. And it's not. It's really not. But I think it's charming in every way it could be, you know?
Yeah, they were able to get a lot in this game. And you know, there's a lot more they wanted to get in. Did did you hear in an interview Miyamoto had discussed how they made like these early playable prototypes
I
where
don't think I've heard this.
both Mario and Luigi were like playable.
L is
Yeah.
real. L is
Yeah.
real.
I didn't want to, I didn't want to talk about it because I am kind of sore there's no Luigi.
My boy.
I know you're you're a huge Luigi fan, so it's a little. I imagine it's a little sad that Luigi.
It is sad. I mean, the game is
Hey.
so good that it's hard to hate, but like that is a sore spot.
You can play Luigi in Super Mario 64 3D.
Yeah, I know, but
DS.
they got to
Not 3D.
release that.
DS.
They got to
Yes.
release that on Switch. I'd play it though. Yeah, okay.
That's a good game.
Yeah, there's a lot you can do. Like we kind of beat it, I think, with the minimum amount of stars, but like there's still like so much. Like Odyssey has that too, where like even after you do complete this world, there's just so much you can kind of go back and challenge yourself more if you want.
Because it's fun.
Yeah,
Like it's just enjoyable. It's a good time.
Yeah, like the actual like story of the game and whatever is really just meant to facilitate getting to all these levels and wanting you to play more. Essentially, you
And
beat
I
it.
mean,
You get to get a slice of cake.
you do get your cake.
Yes,
That's
I love
true.
that. And Peach's voice acting, I think, is really cute too.
I do love the little note at the beginning, especially. It's so cute.
She gives Mario a little kiss at the end.
Oh, I don't know. There's like, they obviously, like you said, they went incredibly simple on the story, and it's kind of a story that they've always sort of joked about since then. Hi, I made a cake, come get it. And now it's always
Yeah.
just like, oh, okay, whatever.
The Mario story. It's never that.
It didn't need that big of a story. It worked so well without this giant story. I mean, you look at future Mario games. Like the next big 3D Mario game is Mario Sunshine, and
Even
that
then,
one
I don't think
is-
it's like
it's hardly a story.
Yeah.
There's this random court scene, and then go clean up the island, and then it's just the game.
The Mario stories more. They're a vibe.
100%.
Oh well, I don't know. I don't know what more to say. Like, what else there's to say? Obviously, like we just kind of fawned over it. But it was like, yeah, it was such a big thing for gaming, and obviously for all of us.
There are a lot of little details you could talk about for
could talk
hours,
about-
probably.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, okay.
But I will
Give
say-
us a tidbit.
Let me say, this isn't a tidbit, but if you were like McKenna used to be, and you've never played this, try getting Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. Hop on a family plan with some buddies. Y'all split the price. Super affordable. And you know what? You play this game, and let me tell you something. It is wonderful. You're gonna have a good time. If you've ever played any of the new Mario games, it'll feel good. People think it's bad because it's old. And I think that is the worst mindset to have for video games, because so many people do. They think, oh, I don't want to play this game because it's old. And I'm like, okay, give it a try. You might really enjoy it. And so, to anybody who hasn't played Super Mario 64 for whatever reason, obviously there's people like that out there. Like McKenna used to be. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. Just play it.
If you like taking games and finding ways to break them and glitch them
Okay.
intensely, there's a ton of ways
This is a good one for it.
that this is a very good one for it.
If you want to jump, double jump, triple jump, backflip jump, Or long jump?
jump.
Oh my
You're-
god, this is
I'm interested.
You're blowing my mind.
Yeah, I mean,
No way, there's all those jumps.
This is for jumpers.
He can even break dance.
You can.
You can fly sometimes, or glide, I guess.
You lose your hat.
You can be
Yeah.
metal.
A little monkey can steal your hat.
You can be.
You can be metal
sort of
and invisible.
Invisible, yeah, at the same time.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to be. It's a cool game.
So it was great talking about Mario and Pilotwings with you guys. We just got done talking about it literally now, and this is part of the normal conversation that we've been having. But as I said, we're going through this chronologically, so we actually have another set of games. We're going to be in, I think it's November 4th. I'll have the details up next time when I think about this, but November 4th, 1996 is the next release date, and it covers both the games Mortal Kombat Trilogy and Wave Race 64, which I'm also really excited to talk about.
Yeah, you guys better test your might.
So Nico did our theme song. Thank you so much, Nico, for doing the theme for the show.
Of course.
Nico, what else would you like to plug?
Oh, well, I stream on Twitch. Nicotendo64 is my handle. As well as I do some music stuff on YouTube. Same name, Nicotendo64. Check me out. I like to just have fun. I just do it for fun.
Michael, what can people see you doing?
Well, I also stream on Twitch at the Golly Rogers, and I tend to appear in other podcasts here and there. One I'd like to plug specifically is the Tales from the Traveling Tower.
Tell us what Tales from the Traveling Tower is.
It is an anthological D&D podcast hosted by Maddie Matt Art on Twitter.
Hell yeah. Well, both these guys have fun things going on Twitch. We watched a video where Michael, you ranked dinosaurs.
Yeah, one of my chatters really liked dinosaurs on that day I was streaming, and they wanted me to rank dinosaurs, so I decided I'd do it.
And Nico's got a lot of great stuff going on. Shiny hunting.
Do a lot of shiny hunting in Pokemon Violet right now. And pretty soon I'll be playing a whole lot of Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in that same boat.
Yeah, I think everyone's gonna be playing it. I mean, let's be real.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about plugging ourselves. McKenna, where can people find you?
I have a Twitch. I don't really. I stream like once in a blue moon. At McLiz. I mostly do stuff on YouTube. I play a lot of indie games, especially cozy vibe indie games at Harvest Gamer McLiz, and then I tweet a lot about games on Twitter at McKenna Games.
All right. Well, everyone, I think, at first everyone listening is probably going to already know this, but everyone can go find me and Nico over on the Zelda Dungeon YouTube. We'll be talking about Tears of the Kingdom.
Tier Force Heroes.
We'll be ranking things on tiers.
Wait a second.
You can find me ranking every Zelda Dungeon on YouTube at Gooey Fame over on YouTube. But for us, for the podcast, as I said, music was done by Nico. Thank you. A lot of our artwork and our icons and stuff were designed by our pal from Zelda Dungeon, Corey Richmond, who did a wonderful job. Obviously, everyone, please subscribe, comment, all that. If you're listening on YouTube, you can find us it should be on every podcast platform.
Leave a review.
Leave a review, rate it or whatever. I want to be the #1 Nintendo 64 podcast. I don't know if there are others. But we're gonna kill them.
Yeah.
We're on Twitter at flashback64pod. If you want to email us, you can email us at flashback64pod@gmail.com. People don't email anymore, but if you email us, we'll read it. We'll talk about it. Maybe
We'll be
not on the
spared.
show, but we'll look. Be spared. And join. We got a little Discord right now. It's just for our select group of people. But you can come join it. It's in the. I don't know. Can you? I don't know if you can do a permanent Discord link or URL.
You
thing.
can.
You can.
You can.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll figure that out. For now, it'll be we'll just put it in the description. Go click
Cool.
it. But we'll figure it out later. And yeah, speaking of, we have other guests to come, and we'll probably be talking to Nico and Michael again too. So,
Well, thank you
thanks
for having us.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for coming.
Joining.
Yeah, I like this is good. This is fun.
Thank you. I'm glad it's already reviewing well.
Sweet.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Nice.